pleasure and an honor to be with you today. I do want to say a special shout out to Sam Cabrera, who is here today. Sam is the president of the Los Angeles chapter of the American Institute of Graphic Artists, where I am a senior advisor and have been involved for close to 30 years. So thank you, Sam. It's so nice to see you.
So, wow, can you wave your hand?
Yeah, Sam, say hi. There's Sam.
Ah, hi, Sam. Now I see you. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, 49 and a half years ago, my graduate school professor asked students who would like to not do the thesis for this class. My hand shot up so fast, was like a rocket ship. He said, "Congratulations, Mr. Gerson, see me after class." I saw him after class, and I said, "What is it that I have to do?" He said, "You have to go and teach my business management course at a place called the Art Center College of Design in Los Angeles." Well, a wave of cold fear went through me. As I said, "Professor, I'm a student, I'm not a teacher." He said, "You are now." And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the beginning of my love affair with the Art Center, which is now in my 50th year. This is year number 50. And I have taught about 6,700 students in that time. That love affair also brought me to a place where I could begin to understand and appreciate the power of design, because I believe that the purpose of design is to make our lives better. And so I have become a lover of design in every form, from photography to graphics to film to environmental. It really doesn't matter. It is just something that, you know, I teach on Thursday and Wednesday night. I always have the same little anxious feelings in my stomach because I'm so excited to be able to meet my students. In addition to teaching, I have a strategic management company, and we do work with mid-sized companies anywhere from $5 to $50 million. I do a lot of succession planning. I do a lot of workouts for companies in trouble. I do an enormous amount of CEO coaching and mentoring, and it keeps me busy. When I'm not doing that, I'm watching Manchester City, who sadly lost to Tottenham last week. So if you see me depressed, now you know why. So that's who I am. I have two wonderful kids, a son who's now 41 with 4 beautiful grandchildren, and a daughter who is a social media designer. And so the apple seems to not have fallen far from the tree. So with that, Sabrina, I've got my coffee here, which means that my brain is ready. After having Pete's French roast, I'm ready to go.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I have a question here that is, I've just quit my job because I want to spend the next 6 months pursuing learning new skills. What are your top 3 skills that you think everyone should know?
So thank you. That's a wonderful question. And firstly, I want to commend you on making what must have been an extraordinarily difficult decision. Many, many years ago, I had the great fortune and great privilege and honor to read a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much. And then I wrote a letter to Dr. Covey and said, I want to come and study with you. And he invited me to Provo, Utah, and I got to spend 5 days learning the 7 habits. So the answer to your question, lies in Dr. Covey's first 3 habits. Be proactive. That's what you're doing. You've made a decision to make changes in your life. Step number 2, begin with the end in mind. You have to know where you're going if you want to get there. And third, put first things first. So at the end of 6 months, I want you to be mentally like an athlete who's running a 1-mile race. And I want you to feel that exhilaration when your chest finally breaks through the tape. But when you started that race, you knew you were going, because if you don't know where you're going, somebody else will get there. So the most important thing is pick up a copy of that book and spend time reading the first of the 3 habits. And you will find the most important is to begin with the end in mind. You know, when I was a kid, I learned to play chess. And so I have what is called a chess mentality, which means when I make a decision, I think about the implications of that decision, and I actually draw it out on a Boolean chart so that whatever happens, it's okay because I'm ready for it. So I wish you nothing but the best in the next 6 months. I hope you will immerse yourself in staying focused on what it is you want. And I also hope you will set goals, and not just any goals, smart goals, smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. Those are the only kind of goals that work. Everything else is just talk, nonsense. You know, people set goals at 2 minutes after 12 on December 31st after they've drunk some terrible champagne. And they turn to their significant other and they say, I'm going to be a better person this year. Hogwash, rubbish. Goals are specific, they are measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic, and they're time-bound. You set those kind of goals, you will have great achievement. So best of success in the next 6 months. I'd very much love to know your journey, and if you could send me an email once a month, it would be wonderful for me to know how you're doing and maybe just have someone to bounce an idea off.
Who put this question on the board? Do you want to just talk out loud, just reveal who it was, or do you want to keep that a secret?
I'm happy to do it. Hi everyone, I'm Enzo.
Hi.
I just left my job about a month ago. I'm actually based in Manchester, but I moved back to the Philippines literally a week ago. And the reason why I wanted to move back really was I learned so much in my job for the past year and a half, but it was getting to a point where the growth was no longer a mountain, sort of climbing up different uphill battles. And it was sort of becoming a bit more relaxed, as well as sort of my lifestyle. And that's when I realized I have to take the next step and try something new and learn something else.
Enzo, may I please tell you to write this book down? It's called Flow, F-L-O-W, and it is written by Professor Mikhaili Csikszentmihalyi, who teaches at the Claremont Graduate School. It's all about what you said. Please read this book. It's magnificent.
I will do. Thank you for that.
And he's one of my mentors.
Wow. So I already see that we have a lot of links, books, recommendations. Maybe there is someone or some people here in the audience who would like to just search for that in the internet, put a link on the board here on the mural board so we all can be very relaxed, because I'm already like writing, but so I think that would be great. I'm sure here will be some volunteers. So yeah, thanks, Enzo. Thanks to your question, to your valuable question. And I have another one. Do you have any advice on knowing when you are ready for your first hire and how to go about it?
So I want to be sure that I understand the implicit intent of the question. How do I know when I'm ready for, are you just starting out in business or already in business? So I need to frame the question just a little more closely, please, if that's possible.
Who put this question on the board?
That one's actually from me.
Ian,
So,
wow.
So I coach businesses, but I also like to take the opportunity to get some of my own coaching. As you know, Errol, I'm a company of one. I use freelancers and other entrepreneurs to get projects done as and when they need to, but I'm the only permanent member of the business. And there are a lot of people who are in a very similar situation. We have what's known as the It's Just Me manifesto. When I ask you how many people are in your company, most of my clients say it's just me, and they have to go through that awkward, difficult transition where they need more help than they can get from a freelancer or a virtual assistant, and they're ready to start onboarding employees. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I'm going to thank you, Ian, because that really helps. I'm going to answer this question by telling you just a very quick story. Everybody knows that Errol is a storyteller. It's my favorite thing to do in life. So after I graduated USC undergrad in accounting, MBA in finance, I went to work for Arthur Andersen, which was at that time one of the big 8 accounting firms. Then after Enron went bankrupt, so did Andersen, sadly. After 4 years, I woke up one morning and I looked in the mirror, which I do every morning as I brush my teeth, and I asked myself a question. Do you like what you see? And the answer on that day was no. So I said to myself, self, what's going on? Well, Errol, you're finding excuses to call the office and say you're going to be late or you've got a doctor's appointment, all of which were not true. But you have to be doing it for a reason. And then I realized I liked what I did. I just didn't like doing it for other people. So I asked myself a question, Errol, are you a chief or are you an Indian? Which are you? Are you a chief or are you Native American? What are you? And I realized that my whole life I'd always taken positions of leadership because it felt right. So I had breakfast and I walked into the partner's office and I said, Jack, thank you, goodbye. He looked at me, he went, you going somewhere? I said, yes, I'm leaving Andersen. Oh, you're going to another firm? Yes. What's the name of the firm? Errol Gerson and Company. He says, but you don't have a firm. I said, Jack, you always have to add the word yet when you have a conversation with me. I said goodbye. I went home. I walked over to an area of Los Angeles called Century City. I went to the biggest building I could find with a fancy address, 2029 Century Park East. I went to the leasing officer and said, do you have a tiny office that I can afford? She said, yes, 125 square feet for $100 a month. I signed the lease on that day. I then went around to used furniture companies and I bought a desk, a chair, and I called the phone company and I put a sign on the door, Errol Gerson and Company. How did I know I was ready? Because I always do an inventory of my skill set by doing SWOT analysis on myself at least once a month. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. After I'd finished the SWOT analysis, it dawned on me. I love what I do, which is helping people. I have a command and an acumen that is strong financially. So why don't you open your own company? And that's exactly what I did. How did I know? Because I ticked off all the boxes that were necessary. I hope that by hearing what I did, that somehow answers your question. By the way, you may ask, Errol, you had no clients. You have to say yet. You see, what I then did was I called the USC Law School and asked if I could teach the graduating law students about accounting and finance. Then I taught in the medical school, the dental school, and then I used to go to all of the rock and roll clubs on Sunset Boulevard. And when I saw the audience loudly applauding for a band, I would bullshit my way backstage. I would go up to the lead singer and hand him a card, and the card said, "My name is Errol, and I'm your new business manager." 6 months later, we had 16 bands we were representing. So what if they said no? No means next opportunity. That's all it means. Just like the word fail means first attempt in learning. See, I was raised with a philosophy that says, look for the good, and it works.
Amazing. Does that answer your question, Ian?
Yes, yeah, it does. Thank you. I'm just trying to write it all down.
Yeah. Share with us. So I have another one. If you could go back and talk to yourself when you're in your 20s, what advice would you give yourself?
Fantastic question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Like
one
that
I
as well.
do all the time. I would sit down and say, Errol, you are a very arrogant person, and you had better learn to kick your own ass before somebody does it for you. Where did my arrogance come from? Came from fear. Came from fear of people not thinking that I was possibly smart enough, or that I was possibly not good enough to provide some assistance to them. And my friends, it wasn't until I discovered Brene Brown and this magnificent word, and she changed everything about the way I think. I never wanted to be vulnerable because I was taught that vulnerability was weakness. What I was taught, because as a child, I was sent to boarding school at 5, so that wasn't a great experience. But one thing I learned there, that if you were to show any emotion, i.e. tears, you would end up with your head under a table and a stick coming at you very, very quickly. So I would tell myself to be vulnerable, and I would tell myself that it is only when you are willing to be vulnerable that other people will love you. And it is only when you are vulnerable that you can learn to love yourself. Because, my friends, we can talk about business from today until the last day I occupy this planet. But until such time as you understand who you are, and you understand what makes you tick, and you understand whether or not you love yourself, everything else is just chatter. You know what my students call my class? They call it business church, because that's pretty much what it is. Errol is always mixing the academic elements of business. I teach with a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, written by Chan Kim and Renee Mourbon. It's a magnificent book that you should read. I teach that. And then, of course, I teach the heart side of entrepreneurship, understanding yourself. Here's what I say. The person who sweeps the floor should choose the broom. Does that make sense? The person who has to sweep the floor, let him or her choose the broom. After all, they're the one doing the work.
Thanks so much, Errol, for sharing that with us. I think, and I just can say that from my own perspective, vulnerability is not easy. So for me, it's not easy. And I know this is something I have to get better at. And so thanks for reminding me again, also all of us, but also me, to keep an eye on that it's important.
And me.
Thanks for sharing that. There's another question. What makes some people successful? I can just add on something to that. That for me, that sounds like what makes some people successful and others not. So what makes the difference? I just interpret this question. If it's wrong interpreted, please let me know, whoever put this question on, but I would just give it to you as that, what makes some people more successful than others.
So I have a philosophy that says words have no meaning. We give them meaning. So when somebody says, what makes someone successful? My first question to you would be, can you please define success for me? Oh, yes, Errol, that's easy. Success is, having a Ferrari and having a house in Beverly Hills. No, that's just geography. Tell me what success is. So I want to share with you, I have a tremendous dislike for the word success. I think it's rubbish. Instead, I will ask you to please replace the word with effective. Why is it that some people are effective and other people are not? And by the way, once you become effective, I don't really care what your definition of success is, but I know one thing, it will happen. You see, I believe a rich person is a person who knows what they have. Yeah, His Holiness the Dalai Lama teaches that a poor person is a person who keeps wanting more. See, once you know what you have and you're willing to appreciate it, there's that gratitude word again, then everything begins to change. So now, let's talk about how to become effective. Do what you love what you do, but deliver more than you promise. End of subject. I don't want you to be the best Enzo. I want you to be the best Enzo you can be. I don't want Andrea to be the best Andrea. I want her to be the best that she can be. And it is only by setting goals that you can learn to improve your skill set. That's why I want you to read Flow, because Professor Csikszentmihalyi says that the only time you grow is when you put yourself in a position of, I need to do more. And that's what you're doing, Enzo. You are forcing yourself to change. Because I'll tell you a secret, Enzo. It's your attitude, not your aptitude, that will determine your altitude. Let me say it again. It is your attitude, not your aptitude, that will determine your altitude. When Richard Branson was 7, his mother put him in the car, drove him 9 miles out of town and dropped him off and said, bye-bye, see you at home. He was with his sister. And off she went. They found their way home. Of course, they didn't know their mother was watching all the time. But on that day, what did he say? He said, I understood. My mother was telling me what I've told my children and what I tell all my clients. I believe in you. And by the way, when I say those words, then tears come to my eyes, because I think it's the most important thing we can ever tell somebody we love. I believe in you. I never heard that growing up. I never heard those words. What I learned from 5 to 10 was how to use these. That's not a way to grow up, not a way to live. So what makes people more effective? Their willingness to continually grow. The more I know how little I know.
Mm. So true.
By the way, I'm an accidental plagiarist because that was Socrates. So I know, with apologies, I call myself an accidental plagiarist because I am fortunate enough to have read and learned from so many wonderful people.
But it's great to just hear that in such a conscious way, so concise as well. So thanks for that. I just continue. How can I find someone who can be my mentor?
Wonderful question. Most important question. So I'm in graduate school, and I had a finance class from Professor James McNeill Stansel, may God rest his soul. And he asked a question in class and I answered, and I thought it was a great answer. And he picked up the chalk duster and he threw it at me. And I thought to myself, this is a great man. And I took another class from him, and Dr. Jim, I never ever called him anything but that, was my mentor for 30 years. And he died 5 years ago. Then I met one day a remarkable man by the name of Wayne Dyer. I hope that name means something to you. Dr. Wayne Dyer is probably a man who is responsible for the profound formative thinking that I have gone through. His first book I read when I graduated college was called Your Erroneous Zones. And when he became my friend, I said, I have a new title for your book, How to Stop Bullshitting Yourself. And he said, you're right, Errol, because you see, when you bullshit yourself, that's when you begin the process of psychosis. And he went on to write dozens of books. And the last one he wrote before he died, I will tell you to read, please. And it is called The Power of Intention. And it is a book of genius. And I wrote to him a 4-page letter, and it ended by saying, I would be honored if you would be my mentor. And the answer was yes. And what if the answer was no, Sabrina? Then no means next opportunity.
Next opportunity.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So he became my mentor. And there have been other people. There is a rabbi who is still my mentor today, who teaches me the spiritual side of myself. And a Buddhist monk by the name of Thich Nhat Hanh, who has taught me a great deal about the world of Buddhism. Concept of mindfulness, which I think is a very core component of effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I give you an
Wonderful.
example. My students come in the first night of class. They look at me, and I don't speak for about at least a minute. And you can almost feel the electricity in the class. They're waiting for me to say something. And then I look at them and I say, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change, which I learned from Wayne Dyer. And then I tell them to stand up and take off their shoes and socks. Now they really think I'm nuts. And I say, now for the rest of this class, as you walk, When you walk, I want you to feel. I want you to be mindful. I want you to look at this and don't tell me it's a piece of paper. I want you to tell me that it is something that came from a great tree, and that tree required water, and it required sunlight, and it required strong soil. Because once you learn the concept that your life is all about interrelated things which make you mindful, then your business attitude changes. Your relationship with your clients turns into rapport, and rapport creates clients who keep coming back and back. That's why I say, and you'll hear it next week, I can show you that money does grow on trees. It just depends whether or not you got the right tree, the right soil, the right water, and the right sun, all of which are in your power.
Thank you. Ready for the next question?
Yes.
I just stopped my last 3 years full-time job and want to move to consulting. Your top 3 tips, any advice?
So we have to define what a consultant is. A consultant is a person who knows how to make love 40 ways, but doesn't have a partner. That's what you are. You're a consultant. You're telling people things that they should do that perhaps you haven't done. So how can you make yourself valuable? I'll tell you what I did. The first thing I do is I write as many articles as I can and submit them to as many magazines as I can all over the country. And I've been doing it for a long, long, long time. My articles are accepted about 10%, maybe 15% of the time. But then when they get published, let's presume that magazine had 15,000 subscribers. Errol Gerson now has 15,000 potential customers. And all by doing what? By making noise. If you make noise, people want to know, is this good noise? Is it noise I should listen to? And who's making the noise? So that's what number one. Number two, I then get invited to speak at conferences all over the country. And when I go to a conference and there's 2,000 people there, I've got 2,000 people who are now potential customers. And at least 20, 30, 40 will come up to me. And there's never been a conference I've been to that I haven't walked away with at least 5 to 10 clients. You have to stick out 1/8 of an inch, which is one of my famous stories that has been around at Art Center. And I will tell it next week during our 2 symposium. But it's about sticking out. It's about doing something that people will take notice. You know, when Steven Spielberg made Schindler's List, there's one scene in the movie that everybody remembers. The little girl in the red dress, because the movie was black and white, and people remember the little girl in the red dress. People remember things that are different. So my friends, be different. A student came to me. She said, could I show you my portfolio? With pleasure. It was magnificent. It wasn't just good. I said, well, you should be out interviewing. And then this wave of fear came over her. She said, I can't talk to people. I said, please don't use the word can't in my class, because can't means you never tried. So what is it you're afraid of? I'm afraid of being turned down. I see. Okay. So I had some product designers in my class, and I asked this young lady to give me a pair of her shoes. She thought I was nuts. I gave it to my product design students and asked them can you please make 2 ice cream cones out of plastic, but they should look realistic, and then glue them to the shoes so they don't come off. And they did. And then after 2 weeks, I gave her the shoes and I told her, tomorrow you have an interview at Young and Rubicam, an ad agency in Los Angeles. It's all been set up. All you got to do is show up. I can't. Yes, you can. Here, I'm going to give you Dorothy's magic shoes from The Wizard of Oz. So I gave her the shoes and she burst out laughing. She went to the interview with the shoes on, and the minute she walked in, 20 people came up to her. Those are the coolest things I've ever seen. By the way, what are you here for? Oh, I'm here to see an art director, happened to be Herb Llewellyn, an old friend of mine. He loved her shoes, he loved her portfolio, and she walked out with 3 jobs. We have to get outside of ourselves, because this word fear will hold you back from doing anything. You know the funny thing about the word fear? It's an acronym. False evidence that appears real. That's what fear is. It's false evidence that appears real. And when you deconstruct it, then it becomes, I'm finally empowered to achieve results. My friends, it's all about the way you look at things. So you want to become a consultant? You got to pick the area that you want to consult in. Then you want to determine the kinds of issues and problems, which are opportunities in disguise, that your potential customers will have. And then, my friend, please start writing. I have on LinkedIn today, I think 70 articles. They average 6,000 to 7,000 each time. And over the last 3 years, at least a dozen clients have come from LinkedIn and from Instagram both. And all I'm doing is I'm sticking out 1/8 of an inch. That's all. I'm trying to be noticed.
That sounds so easy, Errol. But
Actually, it is.
It's just the mindset. So I would like just to ask the person who wrote that about the consulting. Is your question? Do you feel your question is answered, or do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Who was that? I didn't see you.
It was me.
Ivailo, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Lou.
Hey. Thank
So
you very
that
much.
answered your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very good tips. Thank you.
Thank you. So we just continue with the next one. What do you do on a regular basis to integrate this knowledge in practice in your daily life, like actionable rituals?
So
you see, we want to get a bit more practical. People want to get a bit deeper.
okay. So I read every day. I get up in the morning, usually around 6:30, and I read something I have never read before. And it may have absolutely nothing to do with business or with the psychology of business, or I simply believe that when I read, I'm stimulating my mind to want to get better. So I picked up a book this week and I'm currently reading it. Number 2, on Friday afternoon, I do an accounting. It's an accounting of Errol Gerson. I ask myself, what goals did you set this week? Did you complete them, which means to look in my book where I write everything down, and plan for next week, moving the goals that I did not complete now have an orange star. And if they don't get completed the following week, they get a red star. And after that, then I find somebody to kick me in the ass. But I am very goal-oriented. And without being goal-oriented, I unfortunately will revert to becoming lazy. Because in our natural state, we go back to a place of homeostasis, a place of balance. So to continually be motivated, for me, means doing things that are actionable. They also include reaching out to my network. So I just got a note from some senior marketing officer at LinkedIn to tell me something interesting, that the algorithm had picked up that I have wished 60,000 people happy birthday on LinkedIn. And what is more amazing to her is I've never missed a day. So now I have 65,000 new friends and 65,000 people who Errol will have top of mind positioning. In my accounting firm, every client got a birthday card. It was a blank card from a museum, and I hired a calligrapher who wrote the same thing on every card. Happy birthday. You thought I'd forget. Not a chance. Those birthday cards sometimes would sit on the desk of the person for weeks at a time. And once this person happened to be the president of a record company, and an important lawyer came to meet with him, and the birthday card was on the desk, and he asked, why you keep that card? He said, well, firstly, it's a beautiful card. It's a Monet Impressionist painting, and it's from my accountant. And he said, your accountant sends you a birthday card? He says, yeah, birthday card, anniversary card on the wedding. My daughter was in a soccer tournament. He asked how she did. And this lawyer said, maybe I've got the wrong accountant. And the next morning I got a call and landed a very large law firm as a new client. I didn't do anything. All I did was stick out 1/8 of an inch. And I do it all the time. And by the way, Sabrina, it's based on a life philosophy that says, be not like the servant who ministers to the master on the condition of receiving a reward, but be like the servant who ministers to the master without the condition of reward, and do it for the right reason.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I help someone, I'm helped 10 times. I know that for a fact. I don't have to think about it. And yes, it is part of Buddhist philosophy. It's funny how Buddhism and Judaism have so much in common. That's why it's so much fun to study both.
So interesting and so true. So I think we are all very, very grateful to hear your advice, and I just continue with the next one. Oh, what has been your most impactful read this quarantine?
Sorry, the most impactful. Sorry, I forgot
The
to tell
most,
you guys. I'm deaf in one ear, so sorry.
What has been your most impactful read? So the most impactful, maybe not book, maybe just read this quarantine in the lockdown.
So for me, it has been the Torah, the Jewish book of 5 books of Moses, because I came to realize that for me, this book I call Instructions for Living. And so for the past, since 1978, I read every day a small section and look for ideas and look for paths that will make me, firstly, more cognizant of the world around me, And I can tell you what it has done for me is taught me the most important word in business. It's not profit. It's not net income. It's not cash flow. It's not the balance sheet. It's not my 401k investment. It's gratitude. That was the most important lesson I learned. That everything in life is a gift. I just may not see it at the time. But gratitude has had a tremendous impact on my attitude. And my attitude has a 100% profound impact on the way in which I get to work with clients.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to that? So how do you practice gratitude for yourself?
So when I was a kid in college, they had this thing called a spiral binder, ugly. It's a book with metal that holds the paper together. Ugh, it's just terrible. But then an Italian company about 6 years ago created this beautiful book called the Moleskine or Moleskine. And when I saw this, I thought to myself, this is beautiful. I must have this. Now I have hundreds of Moleskines in my home. Well, never, yes, thank you, Jack. Show them. And the beautiful thing, Jack, is it has beautiful leather cover. Thank you, Ian. And the paper inside is magnificent, and you will never throw it away. So Errol has gratitude books, which are Moleskines. And every night of my life, I write down 1 or 2 or 3 things that I am grateful for on that day. And I don't write things like, thank you for fresh air. I write down things that are very, very important. And if they involve a human being, the next day I call them and I tell them, I just want to share with you that I wrote down how grateful I am for our relationship and our friendship. And I just want to say the 2 most important words I ever learned in my life. Thank you. Now I have at least 25 of these books, all full. And then, Sabrina, I read them at least once a week. Mm-hmm. Boy, you talk about a high. By the time I'm finished 10 pages, I'm ready to take on Donald Trump. Oh, wait, he's already gone. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, I think to myself, you people in Europe, you must just think we are the dumbest people on the face of this earth for allowing this human being to semi-destroy our country. Sorry, political comment. So advice, buy a Moleskine, start writing down what you're grateful for. I promise you this, in 21 days from now, if you will do this faithfully, write to me, you will find I will write back. You will say, Errol, something's changed in me. I have a new attitude. You see, my friends, you can't start envisioning the future unless you're willing to let go of the past. And by writing down in your gratitude book, what you're doing is you're pointing yourself towards the future.
Thank you. So to all the audience, to all the participants here, you heard what Errol said. You have to start tomorrow, take a Moleskine and write for 25 days. And then write Errol.
Yeah, I hope you never stop. And I also want you to get up a half an hour before you normally wake up. If you wake up at 7, start waking up at 6:30. Read your gratitude book and then read 20, 30 pages of a book you never read before. You know, You want to become a better leader, Read Max Dupree, the man who ran Herman Miller. Read his book called Leadership is an Art. Leaders are readers. You cannot run a successful business unless you are a leader.
Thank you. So I have another one. Do you believe in pitching via a long detailed deck or a simple one-pager sheet or deck?
B.
Thank you. That was
Yeah,
clear.
if you come to me with a
I would say the same thing.
Yeah, a 25 slide deck about deck number 6, I'm done. You see, if I want a new client, I'm going to ask 3 simple questions. And I'm asking now of the potential client. What is the problem to which your company's product is a solution? Question number 1. Question number 2. Who's got the problem, which now helps you define your target market? Question number 3. Can you give me some examples of people you've worked for? Now, if you can answer those 3 questions, the client knows you're listening. You see, people erroneously believe that selling is telling. It's not telling. It's listening.
Listening.
Go there with a piece of paper. Write things down. I tell you what, a technique that I often use with a new client. Before we begin, I say, Jack, may I ask you a question, please? There are lots of consultants in LA. Why have you called me? Why did you call me? You know what the client does? Spends the next 10 minutes telling me why they called me and why they like me. You know what he's doing? He's selling himself on me. My first interview out of college was at IBM. And this very austere gentleman looked at me and said, young man, you're at IBM, the biggest data company in the world. Why should we hire you? And I said, sir, with respect, may I ask you a question? He said, certainly. I said, I graduated in the top 3% of my class at USC. With all due respect, sir, why should I work for you? Man spent 20 minutes selling me on why I should work for IBM and made me an offer on the spot. Now you say, Errol, that was arrogant. No, wasn't arrogant. It wasn't said with arrogance. It was said with respect. You see, my friends, I am a contrarian. If I go to Athens, to Greece on holiday, I ask the concierge, where's everybody going tonight for dinner? Oh, they're going to the Plaka. Okay, show me that on a map, yes? Now I go the opposite direction. The last thing I want to be is around a bunch of screaming tourists. And that's the way I am in life. I am a contrarian. There's a wonderful book called A Contrarian's Guide to Leadership by Stephen Sample, the ex-president of USC, who was also one of my mentors. Sabrina, I will put together a list of what I think are the 10 most important books I've read in my life, and I will send them to you in the hope that you will share them. Thank
you. Sure, I will share that. I have another question which I see here, very interesting. When and how to end a mentor-mentee relationship if you grow bigger than the mentor and it gets to envy and competitor like negative situation. I have since 1.5 years a lot of problems with one of those energy vampires and I cannot get rid of him. In short, how much to bear, when to fight back, when to leave and take the negative costs?
That's a terrific question. I'm going to role play with the person who asked that question.
Who asked the question?
I'm speaking to the mentor that I'm having this problem with.
Ah.
The mentor's name is Anne. And I say, Anne, There are a number of things that I would like to share with you, but here's where I want to begin. I want to express to you and make sure you understand the deep level of gratitude I have for everything that you have shared with me, everything you have taught me, the guidance you have given me, and most importantly, you have given me a special gift. And that gift is, I now have wings, and you help me, and I can fly. And so I'm sure that you know that the greatest gift you could have is for you to now let me go, armed with everything that I've learned from you. And I promise you two things. I will apply what you've taught me, and I will become a mentor as my way of saying thank you to you. Was I rude? No.
No.
Did I express gratitude? Yes.
Mhm.
Can this person say, what do you mean you're leaving? No. No, of course not. And you leave and you maintain your friendship. But you're now on your own. You now fly on your own. That's what every good mentor wants. And by the way, I have kicked out at least a dozen people whom I have mentored. I've said to them, okay, you're done. What's the matter? What did I do? I said, what you did everything right. Together we learned. But you know what? I can't teach you anymore. You got it all. So go with God and be a mentor to somebody else. Mentors create 1,000 points of light in the world. You know, there are two words in Hebrew, tikkun olam, and it means to heal the world. That's what you do. I am mentoring 20 young boys in Nigeria right now. These are all kids at serious risk. Last week, the police in Nigeria opened fire because there is so much chaos in Nigeria. And we've now formed something called the African Leadership Conference. And it is the most joyful thing I've ever done. I've taught inside a prison here in Los Angeles. I've taught gangbangers. So yeah, you can leave with kindness and with gratitude. It's not a problem. You see, we're the problem. We create this chaos for ourselves. Oh God, if I leave, they're gonna hate me. No, it's all not true. It's all not true. Two men are walking down the street having a conversation. And they come to a crosswalk and there's an elderly lady. So the one man stops and he walks her across the street and he comes back and they continue. The other man says, hey, why did you do that? And the other man looks at him and says, why are we still talking about it? Don't create stress when stress isn't there. We create stress in order to support our excuses. Excuses are well-rehearsed lies. I should know. I did those for many, many years until I was 32 and decided to go get some help. Yep. I went and got help for 2 years from a man who helped me change my life. See what I said? He helped me change my life. He didn't change my life. Nobody can change your life except you. Because if somebody can change it, they can unchange it. So all Jordan did, first time I saw him, I went in after half an hour of my therapy. He said, okay, we're done. I said, we're done? Yes. He said, you can go. I said, wow, you cured me in half an hour. He said, I didn't cure you. You can't cure a bullshit artist. You're the biggest bullshit artist I've ever met in my life. Get out of my house. Go. So I flipped him off, arrogant little prick, and I walked out and I got in my car and I drove to the end of the street and I stopped at the end of the street and I burst into tears. And I turned my car around and I went back and I knocked on the door. And he opened the door and I said, "You are right. And I don't want to be that person." That was the first day in the rest of my life. And it was 2 years of pain. But the best kind of pain I ever had. By the way, PAIN is another acronym: persistent attention. Somebody want to finish? To influence negativity. That's what PAIN is. See, I see everything as an acronym. That way I can deconstruct the word. I can reframe the word. My favorite word, reframing.
That's a good skill. May I ask the person who wrote that if there's anything unclear, or if that's fine as an answer? If you understood, and if that can help you take that step?
Yeah, well, let me thank you, Errol. I think I got your point. However, the person doesn't want to let me go. And I just got that I need to grow and go.
Can I ask, are you the mentee or the mentor?
I was the mentee, and unluckily I was working for that person.
Mm.
Are you ready to leave?
For sure.
Good. Please. And if you need my help, Sabrina will give you my email. You can write to me on email, or we can have a conversation on LinkedIn. But I want you to leave so that you can grow, so that you can reach your full potential. Because unfortunately, I think it's a situation now where your mentor may well be holding you back, and you can't allow that to happen.
Thank you.
You are very, very welcome. Sabrina, please
Thank
give
you.
Annette
Sure.
my contact.
Sure, for sure. I'll do that. Thanks. I'm glad that I asked.
Me too.
So I will go to the next question. I see something also very interesting, and we still have 20 minutes. I think we still can cover some questions. I will just pick something which I think is, can help all of us. So in your experience, do you find that clients appreciate your vulnerability? So potential or current clients?
Yes, yes, and yes. And with respect, if they don't, it's not their fault. It's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I used to send out a card, and it used to say, "Happy 28th of July." And I sent it to every single client we had. And then my phone would start ringing. "Errol, yeah? This is Andy. Hi, Andy. I just got this card from you." "Yeah." "It says happy 28th. "Yeah." What does it mean?" "Oh, it means it's the day after the 27th. He said, "Come on, don't be silly. Why did you send it to me?" I said, "That's very easy, Andy. So you'd call me." Now, I used a piece of software called Goldmine. And every time I spoke to my client, I opened up Goldmine, opened up their section, and wrote down everything we spoke about. So Andy told me, for example, 3 weeks before, that his daughter was in a championship soccer match. And I would say, by the way, Andy, I have a question. How did your daughter do in that soccer match? And the response was always the same, no matter what the subject. How the hell did you remember that? I said, well, this is your daughter. This is your flesh and blood. And this soccer tournament must have given you a great source of pride. So forgive me, I'm going to be greedy. I want a little of the pride. How'd they do? I continually spend time building rapport with my clients. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mm.
It doesn't take much. A lot less time than going to Starbucks every day and wasting $286 a month on coffee you can make in your own home. Any spontaneous questions, Sabrina? Somebody want to blurt one out?
I'm still flashed from your last answer. So what advice can you give us? Oh, now someone put a other thing over that, to be more organized and reflective. I just add there, besides the moleskin and reading in the morning, because that helps.
Yeah. So we have two extremes. We have a very objective word called organized, and a very subjective word about being reflective. So I need to separate them. Being organized. In the military, there's an acronym called WID, and it stands for write it down. I have a different way of being organized. My acronym is T like Tommy, I like Indigo, O like Oscar. It's called touch it once. So I get a letter from a potential client about a question. I don't put letters in a stack. That letter is opened immediately, and I have a piece of leather that has 31 slots in it. And if that answer is due on the 14th, then I put that letter in on the 7th. And everything that I need to do is in my 31 slots, everything. So I touch it once. I don't put it down, because if I were to ask many of you, have you lost your car keys ever? Yes, there would be lots of heads nodding up and down. So I had a student who used to be late for class every week. And I said to him, his name was Louis. I said, Louis, why are you late every week? He said, Professor, I lose my keys every week. I said, okay. He came to class next week. I bought him a 6-penny nail, this big, and a piece of paper with the following words on it. Put the keys here, asshole. I said, now go home and take a hammer, close your front door, hammer the nail in, and put the piece of paper on top. He never lost his keys again. You got to kick your own ass before somebody does it for you. Being organized requires focus. It requires setting time. So at 10:30 at night, I pick up my iPhone and I go to my calendar and I look at what's due tomorrow and the day after. I make sure that everything that I'm doing tomorrow, including this meetup, I've been preparing for 2 days, and I set specific goals for it. And all of those goals turned up in 9 sheets of paper, which I read last night at 10 o'clock. So when this morning came, I'm ready, I'm prepared, and I'm very mindful of the fact that I've done my work.
Sounds like a dream.
It's not easy because, unfortunately, as human beings, we always want to go back to the place of rest, a place of homeostasis. I know that Bob Dylan said, if you're not busy being born, you're busy dying.
Mm.
So I am 76, which means I have fewer breaths left than you do. And I can tell you one thing, I'm not going to waste any of them.
Can I add something to that, which I think can help as well, at least for me, learning to say no. It's hard, but when I try to get organized and to do my stuff, I think always I need to say no to something. So I think that's really hard. I read a book about that, essentialism, and that resonates so much for me. And so I just say try to practice that. It's still hard, but I think that's also something that can help.
So Sabrina, you're right. And what you're doing is you are negotiating with yourself. And all of you need to learn to become master negotiators. So in 1986, I went to Harvard and studied at the Harvard Law School in the negotiation project, 16 weeks. It was taught by Professor Urey and Professor Fisher, William Urey and Roger Fisher, and they wrote 2 books, which I'll put on my list. Listen to the title, Getting Past No and Getting to Yes. And these 2 books will teach you to become master negotiators and, more importantly, teach you to become master salespeople. Getting past no and getting to yes. Small books, magnificent, well worth reading. And they will keep you constantly motivated. You know, a student once said to me, when I leave your class, I'm always so motivated, but then the next morning I just go back to my old ways. So, you know, your motivation doesn't work. I said, let me ask you a question. Do you wash every day? Do you take a shower? He said, of course. Why? I said, well, you tell me why you wash every day. He said, to stay clean. I said, same with motivation. You got to do it every day. You can't do it one day and expect it to last for a year. What do you do every day to keep you motivated? One of the great ways is just help another person.
Mm-hmm.
Help another person. When you go to sleep, you brush your teeth, look in the mirror. Ask yourself this question, 2 questions, while I throw my phone around. Ask yourself, do you like what you see? It's a hard question, but here's the next question. Do you deserve to have another tomorrow because of what you did today? Did you help one person of the hundreds that you passed? You know, about 5 years ago, the young lady who takes the money, the cashier at Art Center, we struck up a friendship, a relationship. And I knew all about her. Her name was Martha. And I said, Martha, what do you love about your job? Oh, I love meeting all the students. It's just wonderful. I said, and what is it about your job that sometimes you feel bad? She says, more than 70% of the students, after I'm finished doing their transaction, don't say thank you. So I went back in the line and I got behind, and a student finished and did the transaction and just walked off. So I yelled out to the student, excuse me. He turned around and said, yeah. Oh, sorry, you forgot something. He said, I did? What did I forget? You forgot to say thank you to Martha. Oh, he came back. He said, I'm so sorry, thank you. And then every week when I would see this young man, he'd tell me how many other people he told. And Martha told me that in the next couple of weeks, almost every student would say thank you. And how are you? And what are you interested in? That's how we change things. By breaking the status quo. When you want a new client, remember that the client you're pitching, 76% of the time, that client will stay with the incumbent agency. 76% of the time. How do you break that? By breaking the status quo, by creating urgency, by asking the client. If you guys continue with the current branding methodology that you're doing, do you believe that that will get you to the goals that you've set for your company? You see, when you ask questions like that, you break the status quo. What people do is they make the mistake. They go in and they start selling. Why me? Me, I do this and I can do that and I've done this. No, don't ask why me. Ask why change. Why change? Break the status quo. Create urgency. Next week, I will show you how to do that in a PowerPoint that I've created for you called Contagious Selling. And I like the word contagious, except in the current situation in the world. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But contagious selling is how to make people sell for you.
I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. And I had a lot of joy creating it.
Great. So I have, I would say, two last questions. What do you do if others steal your IP and sell it as their? Maybe we can, this is a following up mentor question. Please don't say be proud, you're good, they copy you. Maybe it's not only about the IP, maybe it's just in general. How do you react when people steal from you? And it happened to me as well.
Yeah, and happened to me many, many times. In fact, 2 days ago. There's an old English saying, imitation is the highest form of flattery. So I'm on the internet and LinkedIn and I see one of my quotes from another person. I have two choices. I can be angry, which is childish, or I can say, wow, that person must have liked what I said. So I sent them a message on LinkedIn. Hello, my name is Errol, and I just saw your most recent post, which is a quote I made when I spoke to Christo about a year ago. And I simply wanted to say thank you because it was obviously meaningful to you. But I also want to give you some advice, and that is that when you quote someone else, it will make you feel a lot better about yourself if you give the citation or the approbation to where you got it. Otherwise, tomorrow or the day after, you will think to yourself, I did something I don't feel proud of. And see, that's not a great place to be. So I wish you well and thank you again. I got a very, very long response and a post the next day saying, this is where it came from. Anger gets you nothing. In fact, anger just creates more anger. There are only two choices, Sabrina, in life. And those choices are called intentions. Mm-hmm. You can have intention to be right, or you can have an intention to learn. I choose to live with the intention to learn. I don't want to be right. I'm not smart enough to be right.
I just second that. I want to embrace that. I want to be, I will follow that. I cannot say I do the same, but I feel that this is right. So the question to this person who put that question on, does that relates to you? Does that answer your question? Does that help you?
Hey, that was me. Yes, thank you, Errol. It helps. It's sometimes a little bit more specific than that. So in my case, this was actually a previous mentor who was a coach and then ended up selling design sprints online as a bonus for their online courses. So that's what was very strange to me. And we ended up never speaking again because I didn't know how. Yeah. So
Lisa, firstly, thank God that that person is no longer in your life. If the intellectual property they took was a substantial sum of money, now my attitude is going to change, and I will tell you to go and seek legal counsel immediately, because the theft of intellectual property that has substantial value is not, you're not going to get the kumbaya from Errol anymore. Not going to happen. And by the way, I had a student whose work was stolen and ended up being in a brochure of a very famous rock and roll star whose name I can't use. But I took him to a very fine law firm, and my student received an award of $150,000. So I don't do kumbaya when somebody has been wronged in a situation that has taken, forgive me, bread off their table. But when a reprehensible person like that does something so disgraceful, to steal something from another person whom they were giving advice to, my response is, thank God you're rid of them, because that's not someone I would like to be around. And on the day of that person, when they take their last breath, that may be the last thing they ever think about. Shame on them.
Thank you. It was more complicated than that. It was a whole sprint.
I'm sure.
But in the end, she already got her karma. Her business has no direction. I became to be more successful. For me, it's okay. I don't want to fight, but thank you.
Thank you, Errol. So we are in the end, and if there are no more burning questions, so I just hand it over to you. If you have something burning, so just open your mic and speak out loud.
Come on.
2.
Sabrina, I just wanted to thank you for the invitation. And like I told you, I don't know if I even have a time, and I might be leaving earlier, but I didn't do it. It was fantastic. And thank you, Errol. Thanks for all the good input, for all the questions. And Laura for all the work in the background on the mural. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. And you remind me, Andrea, that a lot of people, they ask me for a recording. They send me gratitude, and they just appreciate it so much that you are here, but they cannot be with us tonight. So I get really a lot of direct messages and emails, and so I want to let you know. So I think that was amazing this evening, and I just can thank you, and I'm looking forward to next week. So it's also on the board, and I didn't show you, maybe I can show you quickly, that we set up a form on the board. I summon you there, so whoever is still on the board will see that. You have to apply for the workshop because we don't have so much space. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward. We already have some applications, so there are still some places free. So if you like to join us next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, also at 6 o'clock, it would be great. And I'm so much looking forward to learn more from you. And I just can thank you from the whole community. And maybe Ian, you would like to say the last words. Some last words.
Put me on the spot there. I've managed to get through the whole thing without really saying anything, so that's been quite a success for me. Those of you who don't know me, I absolutely hate being on camera. It's really awkward situation. So thanks, Sabrina, for that, because she does know me and she does know I don't.
Yeah, but I think it's just going out of the comfort zone is a good thing, and we are here in, let's say, in a safe space. It's just spread all over the world. But anyway. Tonight's been incredible. I think I've learned a lot from Errol, and Errol's been a great source of inspiration over the last year. And it's been interesting tonight for me from a personal perspective, because it's nice to hear that some of the things that I already do. So this is my gratitude journal. This is a gift I send out to all of my clients, which is a picture of a duck, which they put on their walls and hang behind their desk, a kind of top of mind positioning. So that's really good. And I'm really looking forward to next week. So Tuesday is going to be contagious selling and top of mind positioning. That's going to be the kind of the theme of the session. And then Wednesday is going to be the value of break even, and why that particular number is so powerful and so important. Of all the numbers that you could possibly track in your business, that's the one that is most valuable. Yep. All of these recordings, they're all getting, they're going to get clipped, they're going to get edited. I'm going to pull them all into my community, and they're going to be available there for the future. And so hopefully we'll see those, the workshops being launched officially as online courses in January. Depends on how much work gets done over the Christmas period. But yeah, thank you very much, Errol. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and listen to you. So yeah, thank you. Yeah. Do you want to also give us some last words before we close the call?
Well, I do. And the first thing I want to do is to thank Ian and Sabrina for giving me this honor and wonderful opportunity to meet all these wonderful people. I'm very, very grateful. It's something I love doing. I want to end by saying something that I hope you will hear. People will forget what you said, and people will sometimes forget what you did. But people will never forget how you make them feel. If you can focus on making sure that the people that you interact with understand that you care, understand that you have empathy, I have no question in my mind whatsoever that the effectiveness, and okay, we'll use the word success and growth of your business will be mind-boggling. It is always about remembering how you left and what people heard from you. And so thank you, Dankeschön. And next week, we'll get very granular, and we will get very left brain, and the old accountant in Errol will come out. But I am very excited about sharing with you the two subjects of break-even and the art of professional selling. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Errol. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you. And whoever would like to join us next week, please fill out the form and if you have any questions, just let me know. And questions to Errol, just, you know where you find me, and I get the contact. I get you in contact with Errol. I hope that was okay, Errol, to just say that. It might be that people reach out to you.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay, thank you so
everybody.
much. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day.